Hello there, and thank you for joining us again on another edition of Channels Beam. I'm Victor Matthias. Now, social media giants Twitter suspended and after some days released a number of accounts, and those accounts were owned by users with huge followers in Nigeria and some other countries. The company says these accounts may have been engaged by acts that violate their rules and regulations. Now, this has brought to the fore conversations around what social media users should do when certain hashtags pop up on their timelines, and also the question of whether or not the way some have turned the platform into a money-making venture crosses any line. But before we get into any of these discussions, we would first of all take a look at what made the social cyberspace bubbling in the past week.
The death of the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip, at the age of 99, took the world by surprise after the royal family made the announcement. Tributes have since been pouring in from world leaders and a gun salute held in his honor. A national minute silence is to be observed before the ceremony begins at 3 p.m. on April 17th. There will be no public procession for the Duke's funeral, and the royal family has appealed to people who wish to pay their respects in person to stay at home instead due to the pandemic. Music and non-music lovers around the world also paid their respects to US rapper and actor DMX, who died at the age of 50, 5 days after suffering a heart attack. The performer, whose real name was Earl Simmons, had been placed on life support and died with his family by his side. In a statement, his family said he was a warrior who fought till the very end. Nigerians expressed shock at the brazen way unknown gunmen attacked a police station in Imo and freed almost 2,000 inmates. This was followed by the removal and appointment of the IGP by the president, with the hope that the perpetrators will be brought to book.
Well, there you go. Those were the trends in the past week. Of course, may the souls of the Prince, that's the Duke of Edinburgh, as well as DMX, rest in peace. But you can be a part of the conversation. You can just tweet at us at Channels TV, at Channels Beam, at Victor, that's called MBIDI. And also you can use the hashtag Channels Beam. Well, let's get to the topic of the day, and we're being joined via Zoom from Lagos, Grace Akinoshun. She is the founder and publisher of SME Speaks, a tech media company leveraging storytelling, data analysis to inform, equip, and accelerate the growth of SMEs and startups in Africa. It's a pleasure to have you join us today on the program.
Thank you very much.
I'm
excited to be here.
Indeed, we're excited to have you as well. So it's been an eventful week on social media, where we had on Twitter, to be specific now, Twitter suspending a lot of accounts due to a violation of rules and regulation. But again, we saw that not long after that suspension occurred, those accounts were restored. But it just has brought a lot of conversations to the fore. You can, first of all, start by giving us a brief background on what happened exactly that led to the suspension of these accounts.
Okay, thank you very much, Victor, once again. Now, the story broke on BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed is more like an SME entertainment media platform. And the report was that an alleged money launderer named Alex Saab has been trading on Twitter. And apparently, some Nigerian influencers have been paid to trend free Alex Saab, despite that he's been known for his, nefarious activities as a money launderer. He was arrested in Cape Verde, and he was to be tried in courts, both in Nigeria and Cape Verde. That's the summary.
All right. I'll come back to you on what actually transpired. But just before I do that, let me quickly introduce Ayodele Adio, He is also joining us via Zoom from Lagos as well. Ayodele, it's a pleasure to have you today on the program. You're joining us via Zoom from Lagos.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be on.
Indeed. So pretty much we're looking at what we can, well, permit me to call it a PR stunt that went awry. But it's something that happens anywhere around the world. But I don't know, in this instance, or is there any rule that guides PR anywhere in the world?
Yeah, I mean, of course, there are rules, conventions that regulates businesses across the world. Of course, there are ethics, industry ethics that guides what PR professionals can and cannot do. So yeah, that's a standard practice globally. Now, whether or not what the Twitter influencers in Nigeria engaged in violated such standards is a different debate entirely, one of which I am willing to have. My argument, has been, it's quite simple. What they did, might have violated Twitter rules and regulations, but I do not subject to the argument that what they did in any way was criminal, in any way or any fashion. They did what many PR agencies across the world do on a regular basis to sway public opinions, to redress the image of certain politicians or politically exposed persons or business persons across the world, to spill a bit of propaganda around certain important persons in the news to sway public opinion. So they have not done anything outside of what PR or spin doctors across the world will normally do. But if it's violating the Twitter rules, that's a different kettle of fish entirely. They might have done that in that context, that Twitter may have the right to sanction people who violate their rules while in their own house. But like I said, the debate of whether or not they might have engaged in anything criminal is a debate I'm willing to have, because I don't think that they did anything criminal. You might have a moral debate with them, whether or not what they did was morally justifiable. That's a different debate entirely. But my argument has been simple. If the person in question had the right to an attorney to defend him, he also might have had a right to an image maker, to manage his image in public. And if we're not casting aspersions at the lawyer who defended him, why is there so much anger and vitriol, on the PR people who try to manage his image?
All right. So again, I'd also come back to you, but so the whole thing, like you said, the image laundering, so to speak, now, or image making, in particular platforms, be it on Twitter or even on. I mean, so what are the implications? Because moving forward, it's had implications in the past. We know that in elections, in other stuff as well. Like you said, you sway the opinion of people into a particular direction. As we move forward, so what should people be looking at? I mean, because if it just means that, I mean, all those hashtags we see, they just might not be out of genuine concern for the cause. So what should people be doing moving forward when they see hashtags pop up on their timelines?
I mean, of course, very few things very few things are from altruistic motives. The legendary Adam Smith made that clear, that it's not because of the benevolence of the butcher that you have your meat. It's because of its pursuit of his self-interest. So people across the world are in pursuit of their self-interest, and very few people do things from altruistic purposes. So the problem we have is that, and it's not just a Nigerian thing, it's a global thing. People are lazy to read. People find it difficult to do their own research, and they depend solely on what, in quote, influencers or celebrities tweet or say. So they take directions from what they see on TV, read on the papers, and now predominantly read on social media without necessarily have to doing their own investigation. So of course, a lot more people will become vulnerable to this, except we start to educate people that they cannot take everything that they see on social media hook, line, and sinker. They have to make decisions, arrive at conclusions for themselves after doing due diligence, reading far and wide, and consulting professionals in whatever area that the message is being propagated around. They have to come to their own independent conclusions about a particular subject before jumping on the bandwagon. Now, that might be a lot to ask for many people who do not want to take the pain to read or to investigate anything for themselves. But the onus, again, is on media professionals like you and I to also do a lot in fact-checking some of these things, in helping the public with a lot of correct and fact-checking opinions so that people can differentiate between what is propaganda and what is news, and between what is activism and, of course, what is just a self-serving effort, at self-aggrandizement. So it's a multifaceted role. The media would have to play its role. Civil society organizations will have to play their role in educating people. But people themselves will need to go the extra mile in not trying to take everything they read on social media, hold, like, and sinker. Read a little bit more, study a little bit more, and use your Google. There's a fancy thing called Google, and it works.
As they always say, Google is your friend. But let me come back to Grace. Grace, so now we've been talking about the power of social media, how social media can be used for so many things. One of them, is campaigns, movements, and all of that. So if this power now supposedly is in the hands of a few, which ideally called or termed celebrities as well as influencers, and do you think this is an abuse of that power, using it to sway opinion, be it right or wrong, be it in the right way or a wrong way? Do you think this is an abuse of power? And if so, like you said, there are rules governing any business. So also social media as well. What can be done, to checkmate this kind of power moving forward?
Okay, so I'll start by saying this. Now, generally, we know that where you don't have laws governing the ethics of a nation or an organization, there's bound to be crimes. If you have a totally liberal system, things are bound to go wrong. Now, if you're talking about areas and regions where people do not take the time to do proper due diligence, and they just want to take what they see online as it is, everybody just wants to take the word of the celebrity they look up to for it. Nobody wants to double check the facts. Then the influence is tilted to one side, and there could be a lot of negative narrative when it comes to what's been presented, okay? And when it comes to managing the online reputation of brands and also people, public figures. Now, I think what regulators that own these platforms, what they try to do is, as much as possible, have a bit of control. They do not want to run a totally liberal system. They want to have a bit of control on what is true, and also ensure that whatever people are putting out or whatever it is that they want to believe or act on, it's something that it's valid, because these things actually affect the perception of the ordinary man. No one wants to take the time to do the extra research or to do the fact finding. So it's easy to take what you have and then run with it and make decisions with it, and then you come back to blame the platform. So on the business perspective, they're trying to protect the information that comes on your platform, and as much as they're trying to protect the users. And on the other perspective, again, it's not a debate about morality, all right? PR organizations do this every now and then, and trying to maintain a good online reputation for their clients. But then there's the risks to it, all right? In cases of delicate situations like this, it's something that's really delicate, and the matter surrounding it is quite dicey. A lot are going on right now, so it's more like a hot zone. If people are jumping on it without necessarily understanding the backstory, then it also stains the reputation of those platforms. So when it comes to social media platform regulation, I think the users, the owners of this platform, they try as much as possible to ensure that their platforms are not used to incite violence, instigate the wrong notion, and just push unverified propaganda. But overall, it's the duty of each and every person to be very careful of the information they ingest online.
Well, I also think it's also the duty of anyone to also look at the information that they pass out before. I mean, just look at it very well before you send it out there. But just hold your thoughts, Grace, as well as I ideally will take a quick break. And of course, when we come back, we'll talk more about the implications of PR stunts or campaigns, if you like, on social media in a moment. Please stay with us. Well, thank you for staying with us. We still have with us our panelists joining us via Zoom. We have with us Ayodele Adio as well as Grace Akinoshu, both of them joining us via Zoom from Lagos. Well, let me come back to you now, Grace, and let's also continue talking about the implications of all of this. So moving forward now, how can we bridge this whole how would I put it now? How do we bridge all of this? How do we bring everybody to like a middle ground for the advertisers, the platforms, the users, and also the consumers of the information that has been put out there? How do we do that moving forward to have a level playing ground?
Thank you very much for that, Victor. So the first thing is the advertisers themselves need to define their own ground. They need to understand the kinds of narrative they're pushing out there, and also the kinds of reputation they want to manage or repair, and most especially how they go about it. Okay, I think a very good approach is to provide some context before you start creating an hashtag that everybody just jumps on, whether or not they know the backstory. So in this case, I believe if the PR company that was in charge of the whole reputational repair provided some context and even reaches out to other local media and tries to push a narrative from a balanced perspective, it may have done well to give the right a more balanced story, and then people jumping on it will know what they are jumping on it for. And then on the perspective of those consuming all of this information, again, people need to start fact-checking. People need to start reading and understanding. Over and over again, Nigerians are falling prey to consuming shallow information and not doing their own due diligence. So everyone needs to start from that. It's about starting internally, taking your own stand as an individual, understanding what information integrity is about, and then. But even if you want to jump on any course, you have a standing, not just because, you're popular celebrity or the influencer you so much adore is pushing this narrative. No, don't just jump on it for jumping on its sake.
Yeah, isn't that what they say? Isn't that what they say now, like in social media parlance, to be woke? I mean, isn't that what that means? Correct me if I'm wrong, of course.
Well, I wouldn't want to debate what that means. I think to be woke, it's a random. It's one of those social media parlance that's been developed in recent times. But beyond that, another reason why people jump on this is actually to be in the trend. Okay, so if you look at it, they may not necessarily be interested in the backstory or who Alex Saab is. What they just want to do is to be in the trend, gain followers, be rated as someone that is woke, like you rightly mentioned. So again, it's about the interest of the individual and what exactly they are trying to achieve at the end of the day.
All right. Well, let's just hope that moving forward, that due diligence has been done by everybody, and also, we get to that middle ground. But I have to say thank you, Grace, for joining us and sharing your thoughts. But quickly, Ayodele, let me also get your thoughts on this. How do we get to a middle ground as we try to ensure that moving forward we don't land ourselves or people don't land themselves in this kind of a conundrum? Ayodele.
Okay. I thought I lost you for a second.
Okay. So we're having a little bit of issues hearing you. I think your internet is kind of freezing, ideally. But again, I'll just come back to you to see if you can just round your thoughts up in less than a minute.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now, please. We have less than a minute.
Hello?
I can hear you.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm saying that responsibility has to be shared across board. from the owners of the platform, which is the Facebooks and the Twitters and the rest, to use smart algorithms to be able to filter some of these things that are disseminated or distributed in public. People who retweet some of these things also have to take some responsibility to fact check what they are retweeting before they share and distribute it across their own platforms. And of course, individuals who consume this information need to also know that they have to take a step further to verify information that they consume before swallowing it up.
All right. I think that's a good point that's a good note to wrap it up. I have to say thank you, Adele Adio, for joining us today on the program and sharing your thoughts. Hopefully, all of that will be done, and of course, would have a very suspension-free social media platform in the very nearest future. Thanks again for sharing your thoughts. But let's now take a look at the most viewed videos on our YouTube channel in the past week.
In fifth place, to begin this week's most viewed videos, is the National Peace Committee meeting in Abuja, which saw the convergence of prominent Nigerians seeking solutions to Nigeria's security challenges.
Our hope is that we should not only share our collective lamentations about our current situation, but propose some concrete suggestions that can point a way forward.
Once we can get the implementation done, I'm telling you, I have not seen any greater nation than Nigeria. So it's not a hopeless case, it's just that we need to do the right things.
It's followed by an allegation by the Imo State governor that a national crisis has been synchronized to cripple the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari.
What is important here for take home is for Nigerians to know of the plot by a group of aggrieved politicians to destabilize the government of APC. I have done some thorough investigation and I have a credible lead as to those who are sponsoring these activities of these hoodlums.
Third place sees the video of a burnt prison facility which was attacked by gunmen and inmates freed in the process. The claim by Senator Naya Abaribe that the APC says one thing and does another when it comes to medical tourism comes in second.
We just see people who say something and do the exact opposite.
While topping the charts is Nigerian veteran actress Patience Ozokwo, describing what marriages are like these days.
But for me, marriage is forever, till death do us part. And I don't care what I meet in it. And that's the way I brought up my children, and that's what I'm looking out for. And by God's grace, with prayers, it's working out for me. What we have today baffles me. And I feel for the children that they are giving birth to, because I don't know how they will learn something better from their parents.
Well, as the saying goes, only time will tell what those children will learn from their parents, but that's where we'll wrap it up on the show today. Thank you for watching. I'm Victor Matthias.